Do you think we're ready to start?
I think the time is to start. We are not ready, but the time has come.
Okay. So let's switch to official music.
Our official music of DevOps Kitchen Talks podcast. DevOps Kitchen Talks.
We will discuss today something
Something
about Thoughtworks Technology Radar, of course.
Yep. Hello, guys. Hello, everybody who's on the line. Today we have planned some kind of panel discussion to talk about the Thoughtworks Technology Radar 2020. And when you think about the panel discussion, the assumption is that it is more than two people.
But today is Friday evening, and one day two fan of DevOps on the studio.
Yeah.
Studio is my home.
And usually when it is Friday, what do? You are making a deployment to production.
Of course.
Yeah. So
every Friday deployed production, and
during
the weekend fix this deployment.
Yeah. So don't be like the guys who did not come to the panel discussion. Be like us. Do not make any deployments on Friday. And let's move to our topic. But before, maybe once again, third time for this week, small introduction.
About ourselves.
Yeah. Who we are, why we are here.
And let's start from you.
Oh, surprise. Okay. My name is Maxim. I'm a lead systems engineer in EPAM. Already working for 3 years there. And I'm a DevOps fan. DevOps is a philosophy, not some guy in the company.
As we figure out during our DevOps quiz on Wednesday.
Yes, this is our third launch on the event. If you did not attend our previous talks, then I suppose you will have a chance to see it in the recording. Hello, Marina. And let's give you an opportunity to introduce yourself while you are answering.
First of all, before we move to my side, let me say, Maxim, you are the best.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, let's switch to me. My name is Viktor. I am DevOps engineer, system architect. My role on different area depends on the project, depends on the role, and so on. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of DevOps. I don't know what to say. I'm author of DevOps Kitchen Talks. Welcome to our podcast. Sorry, it's Russian, but who knows, maybe in the future, if we will have some audience who would like our what we're doing, our content, maybe we will do,
Subtitles.
Yeah, subtitles, or maybe sometimes in different language, like in Russian, English, Belarusian, Chinese, Ukrainian. Okay, maybe let's move on to our
main topic.
Yeah, main dishes.
So today we have one dish, and it's Thoughtworks Radar 2020. So why do we need to discuss, and why do we need to read and pay attention to this document, to this report?
Sometimes when we're working on different projects, anyway, we focused on what we're doing currently for our business needs, for our customer, and so on. And sometimes we don't have enough time to take a look around and understand what's really happened with IT world in general, and what today is popular, what's today some recommendation to hold of some practice. I don't know, like for example, we will see some of the techniques which should work. Say, guys, please hold on, don't use it, and maybe like rethinking what they're doing. In general, why we should believe that work and why we selected this one radar, because I think it's one of the most popular. And the guy, Thoughtworks guys, is a company, consulting company. Martin.
Is there any other types
Martin Fowler?
No, you said it's one of the popular. Do you know any other?
I know that like other guys also try to create something like that on this way, but not on this area. Like try to show the whole. Okay, for example, CNCF. They create their own landscape, or for example, landscape.cncf.com. You will be able to see a lot of recommendations from cloud, Linux Foundation in general, cloud native, Compute Foundation, if I right remember how they pronounce in general. But anyway, yes, I know like existing a few radars which help us to show what's exactly happened with this IT world and IT technology. And so to work, try to do this very frequently, twice a year at least, yeah. And sometimes it's very high demand. I'm very happy that you joined our Gartner. Yeah, Gartner it's also one of the good example, but in most cases Gartner it's more related to business area. Yeah, like for example, I'm going to select some Google Cloud, I want to say cloud provider. I understand various different cloud providers, like what the Gartner say, like recommendation or not. So to work more general, more on focus on the technical area, language, platform techniques, tools, and so on. And Martin Fowler works there, and I'm very like Martin Fowler, and I believe in his thoughts and in general his books.
Believe in him.
Almost like
Martin Fowler.
Yes.
Yeah. Who is not familiar? Who is Martin Fowler? Then shame on you. You need just to type it in Google and see what this guy made to improve the IT world and what impact he have made.
For example, if you don't read continuous integration of his book, you can read his own article and you will understand what integration in CI means. Yeah, for example, I'm very often asked this question because what is CI? CI is build, test, unit test in most cases, and prepare artifact. That's it. But where is integration? Very good question, and Martin Fowler tried to answer this question and explain in general how it should be works and so on. Anyway, like we spent a lot of time on this one. Let's move on to Thoughtworks Radar. Maxim, please share presentation. Just like guys, if you think like I'm trying to watch, Maxim sits very close to me.
Yeah, I think we need to sit in the opposite next time because we are always turning our heads on each other.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe next time we will have more professional camera, better light, and so on.
So yeah, if to recap what Viktor had told already, the Thoughtworks is a company that are providing consultancy, and they know what is currently on the market, what you need to adopt, what you need to postpone, and so on. So they collect plenty of the knowledge, and the guys who are in this company are very cool in the areas.
Yeah, and the main idea of Thoughtworks Radar is that we have 4 different areas, like the different recommendation. The first one, what is more closer to the center of this radar, it's adopt. Adopt means like you start to implement such kind of approach, tools, techniques, and so on. For example, if you today start a project, it's a recommendation to use this one, yeah, from this area. Trial, it's what you should to think about, you start the project, but your release is going to be, I don't know, like in 6 months or 9 months, something like that. And the recommendation to take a look at this tools, technique, and so on, again, from this area, and maybe try to apply for your project, yeah, in general, because it exists a very high potential that like this one will be moved to adopt in general, yeah. Assess, it's what you try to take a look in general, try maybe some for POC. So trial, it's MVP, yeah. Adopt what you move to the production, and assess, it's a POC. Your POC, they recommend you should to try. And the last one, it's a hold. It's like if you start the project, don't use this one, yeah, because it's not. Maybe it's outdated, or maybe it's not so popular, or for example, you use it maybe on not the right way. For example, like log aggregation, yeah, what we will see today during our discussion. Don't use log aggregation for business analytics.
Maybe
We will see it.
So the technology radar is not completely about the DevOps, because it's made more for the complete picture for the IT world for the last 6 months, because it's released every half a year. And we try to grab the most interesting stuff from this radar and to look at it through the DevOps look, let's say like so. So there are several topics that we want to touch for today. And if we go to the first one, it's using the fitness function to analyze the cost of your architecture.
The first question which appears in my head, like, what exactly fitness function?
So if I understood it correctly, it came from biological world. The fitness function is some kind of survival function that will allow some species to be more efficient than another species, and then to survive. So if we are talking about the fitness function to the cost of architecture, it means that you can craft your own function. The deployment and the architecture of it is on your side to understand what are the exact costs of your architecture, of your infrastructure in the real time. Because as we know, the cloud providers do not provide real-time money costs for the infrastructure for now.
No, in most cases you can get this information on next day, like after analysis, like I believe after some ETL process. And the main idea of that, like, in real time, like it's additional metric, additional indicator for your application in general, for your product, to understand what's really exactly happened with your application. Like, for example, in most cases for indicator, we take a look at the, for example, request per second, or for example, how many people join to our conversation. Like, for example, currently it's 14, and it's an indicator. But at the same time, it's very great to understand how much costs your application in general, because my understanding, 10 years ago we started migrate to cloud with the main reason it's cheaper sometimes, and you don't need to care about capacity of your hardware.
I thought it faster to get the new hardware.
Yeah, of course. And like if you use only virtual machine, it's easier to understand your total calculation. But if you use some serverless applications like Azure Function, Cloud Function in general, or for example, I don't know, PaaS solution, or some services where you pay as you use in general, and sometimes it's very great to understand how much you pay currently for the whole count of user. What's your process? Like, for example, how much cost one user for your application?
But can't you understand this looking at another metrics? For example, as you said, the amount of requests in the second. So do you need to really evaluate it in money?
I think yes. What exactly happened for you? What exactly means for you when you see line in line? Like 15, 100 per second, 100 users. Do you have how your application load in general, how much this user consumes?
I think that you understand that the more load you are consuming, the more you will pay.
Agree, not agree. At the same time, some application exists where it's not so much, like not so dependency, like 100 users, I don't know, $100 for all of these users. Depends of what kind of process, use cases, and so on. And sometimes it's much better to see like these metrics. I proceed, I don't know, 1 gigabyte of traffic in general, or 100 users. And that would cost for me, I don't know, $1,000.
Okay, and I personally don't see the maybe whole picture, and I don't understand why you need to invest your capacity and time to implement this functionality, because as the radar says, you should implement it as quicker as possible, so better on the start of your project, because when you will have already existing infrastructure, it will be hard for implementation. But why you need to spend the time and calculate the cost of the resources on the fly, but not just have an approximate estimation how much it will cost. Because if you don't have the load, then you will pay less. It's understandable. If you have the load, then obviously you will pay more. You have just these borders between the minimum and the maximum, and you plan your budget for it.
Agree in general, yeah. But how in common case, how we start developing new application in nowadays is more.
Let's put everything in Kubernetes.
Yeah, of course. And if it's Kubernetes, it will be microservice application architecture in general, approach, style, so on. Yeah, and how you sometimes it's very difficult to calculate all of these parts.
I agree, but the question is, do it really matters?
I think it's very important for business.
Yes.
For engineers and technical parts, it's not so important. And for example, for me, it's not so understandable. Like, what the difference will be if I understand in current real time, and for example, if I can analyze on tomorrow or in 1 month, how I can react on this. Because when we see some high load, for example, we can add additional virtual machines to process this load, like for example, Black Friday and so on, just to avoid situation like downtime and so on. But if I see currently I pay more and more and more, what I can do, turn off my application and lose my users.
Yeah, you see that you're using more resources, and you're screaming to the technical guys, shut down the services, we're getting out of money. So I think that the cloud providers can give you the report for the previous day. Correct me if I'm mistaken.
Yes, in most cases, yes. Yeah.
And I think that will be enough to make some kind of analysis and understand to where you pay more than usually, and so on. I don't see the
maybe,
use case.
I see one use case, for example, I have a graph, how many users currently and what's the price. And in our minds, and I see it, you're also it should be absolutely correlation. For example, if I have users, dependency will be on the line, more users, more pay. But in some time, maybe depends on the application and so on, we have a different picture. And for example, if we more than 1,000 users per second, we start to pay 10 times more. Why? Maybe some problem with our applications. For that reason, in DevOps world, we currently have not monitoring, but observability. And observability help us understand the whole traceability of our applications, because microservices, we store some data, databases, Kubernetes, different clouds. I guess from Monday, if you remember, Karen said, don't use multi-cloud and don't use some products less than version 1 and so on. We have a comments.
Yeah. Awesome. While you were talking, I thought about one use case that could be.
Okay, what?
You can check the cloud provider billing.
Just understand. I see. Yeah.
Is he lying and stealing your money?
Okay. As part of every project, the cost benefits analysis could affect the scope, or even if the project is business feasible, right?
It was hard for me to understand the question. Really.
I think in general, yes. I see a lot of situations when the guys came to me and asked, can you please take a look at our project, how we consume their resources, and can you please recommend something to, provide some cost-effective solutions and some strategies and so on. And, when we work with business and when we work with consuming some resources, we can create the correlation and show the KPIs in general for business. For example, we earn $1 billion At the same time, we spend so much, and for example, one user for us, for example, lead of this user for us costs, I don't know, like $100. Is it good for us or not? Depends. One more question from Sergey. Sergey, thank you very much that you are very active. Cloud analytics is mostly reactive. Prediction can be part of decision making before starting the development, not shutting down the service after deployment. Yeah, it's one of the possible way how we can do it. Yeah, like for example, before to deploy something, we can run our fitness function under our code and understand, for example, one of the use cases, understand our changes, how our changes affect our billing. Yeah, and for example, one of the cases also during the day I can have a lot of deployments, and how to understand which deployment affects my application to increase the bill. Of course, if you have a lot of deployments per day, if you realize continuous delivery, continuous deployment.
Yeah, that is a question, but I think it will be very sophisticated for the implementation.
Agree, because out of the box currently no such kind of tools. It's more general like a technique, which the guys from Thoughtworks Radar recommend to take a look at that. Where it's located? Let me just like double adopt they recommend to implement. It's very interesting, but honestly I don't know such kind of tools, or maybe Stack, which help to realize this approach.
Maybe we read it not correctly. So maybe it should not be in a real time, but you just need to follow this approach. So you need to analyze the costs of the application during its life period.
Maybe.
And it will help you to survive.
I currently take a look at our time, 22 minutes.
Okay, let's move next.
Yeah, seems like only for one, but we spent the half of our session.
Zero trust architecture. Do not trust anybody.
And it doesn't matter that it can be your employee, or this application can be deployed in your own VPC. It doesn't matter. Nowadays, when we live in microservice,
I think this is the main reason why this pattern appeared is because the microservices became popular, and they need to interact one with another. Because when you have the monolithic application, definitely you trust it.
Yeah, because you just like develop in one repo and you understand the whole.
Everything is in one place.
Yeah, in general. But when we try to deploy a lot of application, like deploy application and it's based on microservices, we split our application in small pieces, and in most cases is undependable team. Yeah, and who knows how they realize what they did and how they did in general. Yeah, and we cannot trust them. And the main idea of that, like, it doesn't matter that you locate maybe in some perimeter. For example, you can say, guys, let's create VPC, let's create some isolation, and we will believe and trust everyone who located in this place. And nowadays, in 2020, 2021, it's not possible because a lot of dependencies, a lot of different team, different people realize something, and do you know where you have some vulnerabilities? Like you cannot trust in general.
Yeah, and if we compare this pattern to the previous one, here we can name several tools that I think are following this approach. One was introduced by HashiCorp several months ago. It's Beyond, as far as I remember. And Google is also working on some kind of solution. Do you recall the name of
You're not right. HashiCorp, let me double check. Boundary and Google Beyond Prod. Beyond Prod approach, how you can, machine learning, apply a machine learning approach, apply for understanding who and when and how, what the resources can be accessible. For example, I am Viktor.
In what circumstances do you request in the resources from your laptop, or do you request in the resources from your phone or from
From which location?
From your iPad.
Yeah. And it depends. Like, for example, if I request one resources from my home, like for example, one location where I'm connected to my trusted Wi-Fi point, and for example, I'm moving on to some places and I know some restaurant or cafe,
Public Wi-Fi,
and in this case is like restrict access to the system in general. And it doesn't matter that like I'm connected through the VPN. We know like in general, if you're connected to public Wi-Fi, it's not so secure as you use your own, for example, home or office Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So everybody is moving to the cloud, and we need to make their security restrictions more hard. So, do we have any questions? Because I don't see the chat. I see.
I see. No.
We can move on.
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. 2 words as code. I think that this was also some topics in our DevOps Kitchen Talks episodes. So we talked a lot of what can be put to the code and what can be used with the postfix ops, like GitOps, MLOps, and everything else.
ZenOps.
ZOps.
In general, nowadays a lot of approaches try to implement everything as code. Currently we can put the star before as code and say we can do it. Continuous integration, continuous delivery, of course. Circle CI, GitLab CI, Azure DevOps, all of this to Jenkins, of course, can realize as code, CI/CD as code.
You can't put Grafana dashboards in code.
You're not right. If I'm right, remember on this year they released this functionality.
No, this functionality already was in the Grafana, so you can import the export.
No, you currently you can configure your dashboards in Grafana also through the code.
Yeah, you could, but it will be a big JSON that you can't read even.
If you open some deployment for Kubernetes, you will see big YAML file.
Okay. Another example from real life. We stored our JSON for Grafana dashboard configuration in Bitbucket.
Okay.
And when we have pull requests for changing something, Bitbucket says the file size is too big. I will not show you the diff.
Okay.
So you can put it into the code, but it's not very efficient. So it's not like some kind of classical GitOps when you are configuring everything only via code. You create the changes, make the pull request. It's checking on some staging or dev QA environment. And if everything is okay, you push the button and your configuration is applied and new checkbox is checked in your Jenkins, for example. So,
Dima Tati asked us.
Yeah.
Engineers as code. How close are we to that?
Engineers as code.
Yeah.
That's...
I remember the history. I don't remember in this year. On the previous, some of the company announced like we apply machine learning and AI to develop some products. After summertime, under the hood, realized like it was the guys from India do this job. Like this product create a good description for the task. Like for example, I go to this product and say I want to online shop to retail something. In general. And the system understands what the product should be, how it should be looks like, and what the functionality needs. Our set also want to join to our conversation. Like don't want to
say about engineers.
Yeah. Okay.
You ended with your thought.
Yeah.
I can also give 2 cents for this question. So in putting engineers into the code, we have 2 impediments. First impediment is that when you put in something into the code, you suppose that it's something structured and it's something that could be put in some kind of algorithm. From the other hand, when you're talking about the engineers, it's some kind of freedom to create something new. So you need to combine these two into one. And I don't know for the engineers, but I know that, for example, the musicians are already put it into the code. So in one of our DevOps podcasts, we talked about the artificial intelligence that is creating the music, and it's already launched a new album. So maybe in a few years, we will not be working on creating a new code, but some kind of very intellectual, don't know how to say, guy or a robot or artificial intelligence will do it for us.
Okay. One of the most interesting points from Thoughtworks Radar, and also want to highlight it, Michael say, like, we are very close. Maybe, who knows, in a few years, we will see engineers as code. Maybe in this case, EPAM will lose our job. I don't know. Anyway, as code, what's the most interesting from that work? Diagram as code. The guys say, like, try to use it. Honestly, I tried, and for me, it's not so good. I don't feel like it's a very great idea to store diagram as code.
To store, yes, but to change.
I use Draw.io for my drawing in general design, architecture, and in general deployment diagram, for example, and more easier and faster to do it through the Draw.io. Or, for example, when
you don't like to change XML files. I think Draw.io will store the data in the XML.
Yes, and XML.
Because you love YAML. You forgot the roots.
Yeah, maybe you agree, but I agree with you. But anyway, guys, don't try to automate everything. Don't try to put everything to Scott. It's my recommendation. But try to understand why you are doing it.
Yes.
I mean, like,
exactly.
What's the reason why you? What's the benefits if you put everything to the code?
Mm-hmm.
And for example, if you have a task like, I don't know, where you need to spend only 5 minutes, for example, to create a diagram, but at the same time you need to, I don't know,
2 years.
No, not 2 years. Like, for example, 2 or 3 hours to develop it as code, for example, the same diagram, yeah? Like, calculate what's the difference. 5 minutes, 3 hours. And what's the benefit? Like, tomorrow you're going to change this diagram. Okay. How much time it will require to change? Agree if it will be very complex diagram, for example, and make a lot of changes and so on, and you want to see the traceability, who made the changes, why, and so on, and Git a source code can help us to understand. But in general, like, try to think as a critical minds, turn on in your head and understand why I'm doing it.
Let's be fair that diagram ops is not about the systems engineers. I think it's not closely related to the DevOps. So it's a good example when you need to understand, like Viktor said, the benefits and the reasons why you do it. It's a good example. But it's don't go right now and create the diagrams for your project, I suppose. So
yeah, Sergey,
questions?
Absolutely agree. Yeah, some question. No, it's a question, like a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Plan UML successfully used by architect. Yeah, agree. Some UML diagram can be realized. For example, flow diagram. I see it can be, if this flow diagram is very complex, like include a lot of steps, or for example, UML. Yeah, agree. But I'm currently speaking more related to deployment view. When we have, I don't know, like cloud, on-premise, different services, connections, databases, and so on.
Infrastructure schema.
Yeah. In more cases, it's called like deployment view of our application. UML, some business flow. Yeah, agree. But anyway, and I absolutely agree with you regarding format remaining. It's a challengeable. because it's very difficult to, when we create some image or picture, because we want to move from code to some visualization. And nowadays people easy understand a picture, because a lot of us use Instagram because don't want to read, and when we show some picture, and when we, for example, go to the whiteboard, we also some drawing. Why we are drawing? Because we want to move from some code part to high level abstraction level of boxes and understand the main content. Okay, and I think we spent again a lot of time here. Let's move on to
it's your favorite topic,
Kubernetes.
Kube-managed cloud services. So you spin up a cloud using Kubernetes, I suppose.
In general, is the main idea when we work with Kubernetes, and for example, you deploy some as a service like GKE, AKS, EKS on different cloud.
One question before you start start shooting about Kubernetes. So how you can provide, for example, EC2 functionality using Kubernetes? Virtual machine.
Sorry, I read the comment from Sergey. Can you please one more time? Sorry.
So how can you provide a service like virtual machine using Kubernetes?
What I don't understand in general your question. When I create a Kubernetes cloud, for me responsible for master node, and then connect my working node, my virtual machines. That's it.
So you are a cloud provider
that
is using Kube-managed services.
Kube-managed services means like from Kubernetes. In Kubernetes, I can create custom resource definition, in general CRD, it's called, and so I extend my Kubernetes API and its main entry point for Kubernetes. I extend this API, and through this API, I interact with cloud API.
Okay.
Like it's very close as Terraform, because in Terraform, how I interact with different providers, in Terraform when I connect it, for example, GCP, Azure, AWS, GitHub, and so on. In general, under the hood, inside this provider, in this provider include, a method, and in general, how I interact and how I proceed to create, delete, or something else object inside of this service, like for example.
Yeah, I understand the point. So it will be like kubectl, deploy, and some Azure function, for example, and it will create an Azure function in Azure Cloud. But you will use Kubernetes for that.
Yes. The main idea, like you interrupt me, the main idea, like I deploy Kubernetes and I want to expose one of my services. And inside of Kubernetes exists the Cloud Controller Manager, and this Cloud Controller Manager helped me to create Cloud Load Balancer and connect to my, to my Kubernetes. And it's like expose my service. But it's only one service. And the Kube-managed cloud services, it means like through the Kubernetes manifest, as usual, I work with YAML. I describe, I have new kind of object, and they can create services inside Kubernetes. For example, I'm going to deploy, first of all, deploy Kubernetes through the Terraform, and then describe all of my application in Helm, for example. And I can deploy S3 bucket. I can deploy RDS database, if you speak about AWS in general. I know this approach already implemented AWS, GCP, it's called connector, and Azure also has such kind of functionality.
So you will need to know only two tools: Terraform to create Kubernetes, eventually only one command, and
Terraform apply that.
Yeah. Terraform apply and the template for Kubernetes downloaded from the internet. And second part is Kubernetes. If make it easy, then you need to know just the YAML syntax.
Yes, in general, yeah, and like Kubernetes stays more popular nowadays, and everyone try to run Kubernetes, they create their own solution of Kubernetes, and like Sergey mentioned, Kubernetes is PaaS. If we use GKE, for example, or EKS, I can say Kubernetes is PaaS, platform as a service, because you are not responsible to configure and manage this Kubernetes. You are just responsible what you deploy inside this Kubernetes. Yeah, you're responsible for your application part. It's the same as when we use RDS or Azure Cloud or something like that.
Do you remember in what category this pattern is? What should we do with that? We need to assess it or to adopt it?
Don't remember. Let me double check. Assess. Assess. It's means like
already in production.
No.
MVP.
POC. Let's call it like a POC. You need to play with it, understand is it good for you or not, where you can use it, and so on. But in general, it's it's like for your POC, not start develop use such kind of tools or approach, because it's very new. Yeah, I'm not sure that we have some products with version 1 not in beta or alpha release.
So main question here, if you don't have Kubernetes in your infrastructure, should you follow this pattern and
of course
create
not.
one?
Of course not.
Just to manage your cloud resources.
Of course not. Use Terraform or some native services like CloudFormation or Azure Resource Manager, Deployment Manager.
Okay. If there's no questions in the line, we can move to the next topic.
There is a question regarding, like, not related to this topic, but in general, in between the specific terms, is it possible to ask radar report usage and impression related? I see, related. What's the question? Okay.
Let's move
on.
Okay. Distroless Docker images. One more topic that somehow correlates with microservices. It's usage the Docker images. And the main goal here is to make these images more thinner and more secure by removing all the unnecessary libraries, tools, dependencies from the Docker image itself. And
absolutely agree. And like it's one of the approach when if you need something, you use it. If you don't need, or for example, in case, like for example, if something happened with my application, I need this library because it will help me to debug. Not this approach. You have to use multi-stage build for your Docker images to build your Docker image, in general, and don't provide a surface attack. Like, don't extend surface attack for your application. Try to make it as less as possible. And if you think like Alpine is small, you're right.
Use Scratch.
No, you can use some Distroless images which provided and supported by Google. Also inside of this Thoughtworks Radar, you can find them, and Google supported these runtimes. If I might remember, it's related to Go, of course, Java, and something else. Let me double check. And also I will share this link on our chat.
What do you think, what will be the next most popular container engine?
We had in this week very interesting news-related, like Kubernetes is going to deprecate Docker as a container runtime general, and use only containerd as some like as container agent in general, because Docker, it's not related only about it's a very good tool for containerization. It provides a very great UI and so on. But
UI,
UI,
Docker.
How you interact with Docker? You use CLI, you use UI also. I mean, Docker create middle layer between container D in reality, yeah, and your interaction, and help you to do it easier. I mean, like if you want to run, stop, debug, create, and so on, it's provided.
It have easy syntax.
Yes, syntaxes and also UI. You can like open your general when you develop something, you can open and take a look what's exactly currently running and so on. Why not?
Yesterday I was trying to understand what was the initial command that launched the container, and if you just type docker ps, it will show you all of the running containers and some small part of the entry point with the command under which it was launched. But if you want to see the whole command, you need to add the argument no trunk, and it will be not very pretty when it will be shown completely. So yes, it's I think you have you don't need to pass special courses to understand how to interact with Docker, and this step to dive into it is very small to start using it. But regarding pretty UI, I think maybe we will see someday any additional tool. And as you said, that Kubernetes wants to change the container runtime, and also Podman replaces Docker in several operation systems. So I think that maybe in next year we will see another container champion.
Not sure, but who knows? Who knows? Yep. We will see.
Yep.
Let's move on to next topic.
Просто. So we have Sergey in the lobby. He wants to join in. Let's try to add him to the call and give him the opportunity to say something. Is it possible?
I just accepted the invitation, but I don't know what will be happen next.
Maybe it expired. So Sergey, if you have something interesting to share with the audience, just make additional request. And we made it. We get to the topic about log aggregation for business analysis.
Analytics.
Not
analysis. It's different area.
Okay. What do you think about this?
So in general, when we started to implement log aggregation for our application, it's a very good approach. Yeah. The reason, first of all, this technique is on hold. First of all, it's on hold.
Log aggregation for business analytics is on hold. It means that you do not need to do it.
You have not to do it in general because it's not best practice, but log aggregation for your application is a good approach. When you collect from different sources logs in one central place, I don't know, like for example in Splunk or ELK or maybe some other.
Loki,
yeah, for example. It's very great technique.
For troubleshooting.
Yeah, for troubleshooting because you have the whole something like, no, isn't it? Dima, let me explain. And we use it in general because it's helped us to understand traceability. But the guys started to use log aggregation for business analytics. What it means, like, for example, how many users use my application, what the actions they're doing, what's some different question from business analytics, like to say how our application success in general and market and so on. And it's not for what we create business and log aggregation. Yeah. Agree, Dima. If, for example, implement some Power BI reports and so on, it's good, but you should think about this.
I can give a use case.
I have use case.
I tell that I can give a use case.
Okay, please.
So, for example, you have an application that is providing some kind of portal where users can buy some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you decided, I don't know, to change the color of the button or to move this button from one angle to another angle. And then you can use log aggregation to understand how this influence the behavior of your users. So, for example, you change the color and users began to click on this button less.
But this analytics not should be realized through the log aggregation. You have some separate analytics inside your application, or for example, send this message to separate place or separate, I don't know, separate storage or separate system in general, where you will be able to apply your analytics. Like, for example, send all of this data to BigQuery or some storage, like and analyze through the Power BI and so on.
But you will be paying for 2 resources when you can use just one.
No, our logs, most cases, logs, it's for technical guys. It's for system engineers, for developers.
Nobody is looking at it.
I know, like around 99% of logs in general never look like.
Nobody is looking at it.
Yeah, nobody's looking at it because it's like, why? Because that doesn't have any problem. Why I should look at this by logs? Yeah. And I agree with your case is very good, but I'm not agree it should be log aggregation, which I generated through my code. I mean, my code generate a problem or generate some events, and I use this. It's a technical logs. It's a technical events in general, yeah. And if I want to use something as, I don't know, like to proceed business analytics,
I can drop on the fan. So then if you will not use log aggregation, yeah, you will need to implement some kind of additional logic in your application to first of all identify these events, and then to make them available for, I don't know, so system, or to push them these events. But if you have only log aggregation, you can just use the regular logs and make analytics based on these logs.
But so if you take a look at this, our technical logs, you will see it's not adapted for business analytics in general, because it's not provided, for example, all fields. And business, the guys from BI part will come to developer and say, guys, can you please also put this data to logs? And in this case, we just moving on from technical part, because from technical logs to business analytics logs. And maybe the prefer, to create some separate mechanism.
Don't mess the logs.
Yes. Because in this case, in a year after all of this implementation, you will open your logs and you will not be able to understand what is going on here. Like, I put everything as much as possible, and for example, one event will take 100 lines on the screen. Yeah, and how you will read it?
You will not read it. You will have the parsers.
Exister. I mean, it's some people say your logs in general not needed, because you can create a metrics based on your logs and store only your metrics and make some decision. I mean, currently when I speak about it, I mean technical logs. Mm-hmm. When for example, I open connection to my database, I send request to database, and it takes 5 minutes to proceed my request. So, what's most important from this scenario? When I open my connection, how much time it takes to proceed my request. That's it. And this metric is important for me. Nothing else.
How you will troubleshoot the root cause. So, for example, yesterday it was 1 second. Today it's 50 seconds.
How this logs will help me to troubleshoot it, to find root cause.
Which logs?
As I mentioned, open connection, send request. The request takes 5 minutes.
No, these logs will not help you, I think.
So with these logs I can move to metrics?
Yes, these logs, yes. But not all of them. We are not reading it, but we are thinking that we are safe then when we have the logs.
Okay. Dima still say like use different dashboard in ELK for business analytics and for technical guys.
Yeah. Good approach.
Yeah.
So
we have cutops, yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you have already spent 2 years for implementation this logic for making business analytics based on log aggregation. But in case you do not have any for now and you are planning something, Thoughtworks recommends to look for additional approaches how you can do it.
Don't use log aggregation for business analytics.
Don't use multi-cloud.
From current recommendations. So our time out?
Do we need to
55 minutes?
Oh, already. And do we need to select best question? Do we have a prize for today?
Yeah. I think it will be Sergey.
The most active.
And the guys who wanted to join our conversation in real time. Sergey, for you will be some special prize, a gift. I don't know when, but I promise that we will proceed it on next week. And maybe our organization guys will interact with you on next week. So I hope it was useful, guys, for you.
And if you like the content, you can subscribe to our DevOps Kitchen Talks podcast and see me and Viktor more and more, and maybe even to have some influence on our topics that we are discussing. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Hope it was interesting for you this evening. And we wish you good Friday and good weekends.
And happy Christmas.
And happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year. Almost the end of this super challengeable year. And I know like a lot of people waiting for the next year, 2021. I hope it will be much better. Thank you guys that you joined to us, and see you in the internet
somewhere.
Anyway, subscribe to our channel, write out some feedbacks, do you like or not, and
vote for the DevOps show.
Yeah, of course, we have a poll. If you still have not voted for us, please go to there and vote. 53 votes. We are on the first place. Anyway, let's show like we are the best. Yep. Okay.
Thank you. You are the best.
And you are the best, of course. Thank you very much and have a good evening and bye.
Bye-bye.